Hello guys, good morning. Thank you for taking time from your busy schedule and joining the training series for today. I welcome everyone. Very excited to present one more session on Desktop Central application. So before we move on, first and foremost, I'd like to have a quick confirmation whether are you able to hear my voice and view the presentation. So please confirm me by commenting on the chat as yes. So we'll just wait for a couple of guys for confirming that on the chat. Just you can mention as yes, that should be enough. I'll just wait for a few seconds. You can grab your cup of coffee. Should be another exciting session. All right, we got the confirmation. So let's move on. So first and foremost, let me introduce myself. So my name is Jai Kishan Podar, Senior Technical Consultant, and I'm associated with ManageEngine from last 10 years. So I'll be the trainer for today, where I'm gonna talk about, present the remote control topic. So let's have a quick look on the training schedule. So as you know, this was a 7-week training series, where today is week 4, where remote control and tools topics will be discussed. So this is presented on 2 different time zones, 6:30 a.m. GMT and 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. All these sessions or webinars will be recorded and will be published in our website. We'll be also sharing you the recorded copy of the training session by end of today or by tomorrow via email to all the attendees. And later on, you can also go to desktopcentral.com/training.html to view the recording files. All right. So today's topic is remote control. So let's have a quick look on the agenda, which we're gonna cover. The first is the overview. What is remote control? How it really works in the backend. And then I have taken some real-time scenarios or requirement, which is been experienced for a help desk technician on day-to-day life. So situations like, he has a requirement to resolve a help desk ticket where he has to install Adobe Acrobat and troubleshoot some Wi-Fi connectivity issue raised by the end user. So how we can go ahead and resolve that. The scenarios of troubleshooting the system slowness issue raised by the end user, applying or enforcing the IT policies on the desktops, laptops, and on the situations or events where we have to notify the users. Let's say the Exchange server is down, how we can leverage the tools offered to notify the end users. Then different scenarios and solutions which we came across based on support experience, commonly faced scenarios, followed by the questions at last. So any point of time, if you have any doubts or questions, feel free to put in the chat section. So I have an expert panel sitting next to me who will be more than happy to answer your questions then and there. And we're also going to collect most of the questions and share it towards the end of my presentation for the larger audience view. All right, so that's all about the agenda. So as of now, remote control functionality is supported for both Windows as well as Mac OS platform. So any Windows machines and Apple Mac, you can take remote control using Desktop Central tools. Then for the guys who are maybe new to the product or just joining the training session for the first time, I like to share a quick overview on the Desktop Central product architecture. So you have your head office where you have Desktop Central server application installed, and you have a clients managed locally on LAN who will be contacting the local server to check for any task available for deployment. So this, as you know, server, the Desktop Central is a server client architecture product. So you need to push the agents on all the machines which you wish to manage. If you have any branch offices, then you can have distribution servers placed for the bandwidth control. So that will replicate the data from the main office to the local client machines out there. It can also help you out in pushing the agents on the remote office. And you can even manage mobile users, roaming users who work from home or travel over the internet by doing NATing on your firewall. That is network address translation. So you can manage local office machines, branch offices, as well as roaming users using Desktop Central. Next, I'd like to share is the ports used by Desktop Central application. So there are various components involved in Desktop Central application, as you can see, and we do support HTTP, HTTPS, TCP, and UDP. So there are various components, different components use different set of ports for different activities. So as far as Desktop Central server is concerned, it runs on 8020, and we have a notification server which is responsible for all your on-demand activities, which runs on TCP 8027, whereas remote control, the gateway port will be 8443. So to know more on the ports information, you can just go to desktopcentral.com/ports. Next, I'd like to share is a topic on 90 minutes refresh policy. So what is this 90 minutes refresh policy? So this is default agent server communication refresh interval, wherein every 90 minutes or system startup, the agent checks with the server for any task available for deployment. So to explain it better, let's imagine that you're managing 900 computers in your network, and all of them contacting the Desktop Central server at the same time, which might definitely impact your server CPU performance. At the same time, it might also choke up your network bandwidth, which as a network admin or system admin you don't really want, right? So to handle this scenario, we have a feature called 90 minutes policy, where the server has intelligence to streamline or distribute this agent server communication channel in a balanced manner. So within first minute, let's say 10 machines will communicate to the Desktop Central server and take the task, whatever you schedule for deployment, and execute on the client machine. Followed by the next minute, next set of 10 machines will communicate to the server and take the task and execute. So on. Within 90 minutes, all the 900 computers will communicate to the server and execute the task on all the 900 managed machines. So this ensures the distribution of the task happens in a balanced manner, and that's how you can ensure the smooth deployment of the task. So that's what on the 90 minutes policy. Next is how remote control really works in the backend. So as you can see in the image graph, so this is a backend workflow. So we have different components involved. So whenever you log into Desktop Central, once you initiate the remote control functionality, when you click on connect, let's say technician 1 logs in and initiates the remote control process. So as soon as you click on connect, it raises the request, and on the Desktop Central server, we have a notification server component running, which is responsible for all the on-demand activities, which will listen to the request and it will forward the request to the target client, where we already have our agent running. So the agent listens to the request and initiates the remote control service running on the client machine, which in backend captures the images from the local client machine and send back to the server, where the gateway port, that is 8443. So the gateway listens to the request and forward that back to the technician 1 viewer machine. So that's how the technician 1 sees the remote client machine desktop on his screen. Now we also support multi-technician view, so that let's assume on the same session another technician logs in and joins the same existing session. So once the technician 2 clicks on connect, it sends a request to the main desktop central server, where the gateway port listens to the request, and it already has intelligence that existing session is running. So it forwards the request which came from the client back to the technician 2. So that's how the technician 2 can see the target machine screen on his local laptop. So that's how the backend workflow goes on for the remote control activity. So next, to explain the remote control functionality in a more elaborative manner, so I've taken a scenario, or I would say a situation, where the technician, whose name is John, has a situation to resolve the helpdesk ticket, where the end user Bob is one of the employee who sends a request to the helpdesk, to IT helpdesk, and that tickets get created on our Service Desk Plus or helpdesk ticketing tool. So John gets the ticket assigned, and when he opens the ticket, he finds that there are 2 tasks which he has to perform to help resolve the ticket. And those 2 tasks are, first, installing of Adobe Acrobat application, and second is troubleshooting the Wi-Fi connectivity issue raised by Bob. So these are the 2 tasks he has to perform to help resolve the reported issue. So how he can leverage Desktop Central to perform and resolve the ticket. So for this, I'm going to take you to live to my local Desktop Central setup. So I have a product running in my local lab. And so for better understanding, I'm going to log in as a technician John in my local lab. So that's how the product looks like. So first and foremost thing, before I go and initiate the remote control functionality, what I have to ensure is, as a request is raised by Bob, I need to first ensure whether the machine which Bob is working on is being managed by Desktop Central or not, whether you have a agent installed or not on that machine. So to confirm that, I have to go to the admin, SOM settings, scope of management. So this is the place where you can add the machines and push the agents. You click on computers tab. This is the place where all the machines will be shown to you. And here you can, if you want, you can search for the specific end user technician name, or if you're already aware of the machine, you can search by the machine name and find out. I know that this is the machine where Bob is logged in. So I've confirmed the machine is successfully added to scope of management, and it's up and running and has agent installed. So now I can proceed to go ahead for the remote control activities. There are a lot of things you can do from scope of management, where you can install agents, you can uninstall the agents. So we are having another training session where we are going to talk about in more detail, how to install or uninstall agents, how we can, what are the tasks or activities you can perform using scope of management. That is coming up next week, so you can register for that. So for now, I've confirmed that machine has been added, agent installed. So now let's go ahead to the tools and remote control. So this is how the options look like. So first of all, I need to find out which machine Bob is logged in. So I can very well come here, click on the search icon, and I can search by the username called Bob. And here we go. So I can see Bob has logged in to the machine DC OSD W10. So now I've just noticed, right, he has 2 different users have logged into the same machine. Now I need to ensure that I'm joining only the or taking control of only the Bob session. So you can see next to the connect tab, there's 3 different dots. You can click on that, and that will show you the list of available users on that machine right now at this point of time. So I can click on the Bob username, which will connect me to the Bob session. Before going and clicking on Bob, I have one more option I just want to share. Like, if there's some scenarios or best practice where before taking remote control or remote access of the client machine, there's a function, or I would say provision, where there's a checkbox for prompting the user for confirmation. So you can check this box and then click on connect. Now what it does, it asks for the permission from the end user to grant the access of his machine. So if until he allows that, you will not be able to take control. If you uncheck it, then you just connect right away. So this is for certain organization where they do follow some kind of accountability, and for auditing purpose, it's always recommended to have the confirmation enabled. All right, so for now, I'm just gonna go without the prompting the user. As soon as I click on Bob name, I see there's a pop-up which is asking for the reason why I need to take remote of the client machine, or why I want to connect. So for the better auditing purpose, and better accountability later on, is always suggested to mention the notes, so they can technicians or later on you can view what was the specific reason. So as I see, this was a ticket I'm working on. I've just given a text, what is the reason to connect. So as I click on connect, it will take just a matter of few seconds. I have now successfully connected to Bob's machine. So I can see there are multiple viewers or multiple screens. That means Bob is running multi-monitors. So you can very well check it out, which screen which you want to join. You have a provision where if you want, you can even toggle the screen. So you can just go for a first screen, and right inside I can just switch whichever screen I want to work on. So I'll go for screen 1 once again, and you can see the options. You can even change the layout. You can even go for vertical mode or even horizontal mode. So based on a requirement, you can decide what should be the layout. I can even toggle between different screens if I want. So these are the options available. All right. Apart from that, see if you left inside, there are a lot of multiple options available. So for now, I'm just gonna go for a full screen mode so you guys can have better visibility. All right. So now I have a full control of Bob's machine. Now let's come back to the actual requirement. So the task what Bob has asked to perform a installation of Adobe Acrobat app. So I'll go with that installation. So first and foremost thing, usually since Adobe Acrobat is a commercial app, right? So in normal practice, I will be having all my commercial application saved in a respective local network share where all the other commercial apps are available. So I can go ahead and very well access the network share to copy the source file. Now, since this local network share is something bit confidential, which I do not want to expose to the end users. So now I want to hide that. So is there a way to hide that? Yes, you can use the built-in feature of blacking out the screen, so Bob cannot see what you're doing on his machine right now. So if you go to the left-hand side under actions, you have a blackout monitor. So I can just click on that. Now you have a full control of the machine, and there's a complete black screen on the end user machine. You also have an option to disable the keyboard and mouse too if you want. All right, so I have blacked out the screen, and now I can very well go ahead and access my network share wherever the package or source file is kept, and I will copy the file and execute the exe. So now during the installation, since it's a commercial application, I remember that it requires a license file, right? You need to provide the source license file. So for that, again, that source file is something placed in my local machine. Is there any way I can quickly transfer the file to the client machine? Yes, you can do that. Again, that can be done in matter of few clicks. So we have a file transfer functionality already built in, where you can quickly select the file. You can see the local machine, where you have saved the file. You can go to the, let's say on desktop, this is the file, and I want to quickly copy to Bob's desktop machine. Select the file, transfer it. That's it. In matter of few seconds, the file will be successfully copied. I can close this file transfer session. I can minimize the screen, and I can confirm. Here you go. So I've successfully copied the license file for the Adobe app. All right, so let's assume that using this license file, I was able to install the Adobe application as requested by Bob. So now my first task is completed. Now I want to go to the second task, where he has reported the Wi-Fi connectivity issue. So now with my limited knowledge, I'm just gonna do some basic troubleshooting about how to fix the Wi-Fi connectivity. So I'm just gonna check few settings on how the NIC card is configured. But somehow after spending few minutes, I was not able to resolve the Wi-Fi connectivity issue. Now in this situation, I want to call my colleague Peter, who is actually much more tech savvy and much more advanced knowledge on the network connectivity issues. So I want his help so that he can log in to the same existing session and help me in resolving the Wi-Fi connectivity issue. So let's assume that I have called Peter on his desk, and I asked or requested him to join the session. So how to go about that? So I'm just have another session running, and I'm just going to log in as Peter. So let's assume this is a Peter who is joining or logging into Desktop Central from his machine. So I can go to the tools, go to remote control, and I can, if I want, I can search by the end user Bob again. And I notice that there's already an active session running. All I have to do is click on View Desktop. All right, so this shows it has successfully connected. So I have connected to the Bob's machine as Peter, but by default it will be in the read-only mode. Now I have to enable the active mode if I want to take remote of that machine and I want to work on it. So that's how we can do under action, click on remote mode or active mode. So now I have control of Bob's machine. So I will do some basic troubleshooting. Let's assume that Peter, with his expert knowledge on network connectivity issue, he has restarted certain services, and he has accessed the command prompt, and he can also send some local commands. Let's say he has run flush DNS or done the basic troubleshooting, and he was able to successfully fix the Wi-Fi connectivity issue. So I can be very helpful. I'll thanks Peter for fixing the issue. And now, but he has mentioned me that the issue has been resolved, but since this is a network connectivity issue, this requires a system reboot once. So only after system reboot, the Wi-Fi connectivity issue will be resolved permanently. All right, so that's a very important note passed on. So I'll thank Peter for fixing the issue, and now let's assume that Peter is leaving the session. He's done with his task. Now he leaves the session, and now I'm going back to my existing session as John. So this is a session which I have connected. Now since we have performed, I've successfully installed the Adobe Acrobat app, and we also fixed the Wi-Fi connectivity issue, but now this requires a system reboot, right? Now as this is a production hours, I need to first take a permission from Bob, whether he's okay to go ahead and perform the system reboot right now. So how to notify or ask permission from Bob without disturbing him, without calling him? So for that, again, we have a built-in chat tool in the same session. So you can see you have a text chat, voice call, and video call functionality. So for now, I can just go for text chat. So I'll just quickly open the chat section, and I'm gonna request Bob to allow me grant me the permission to reboot his machine. So I just mentioned that I've successfully installed the Adobe app and we fixed the Wi-Fi issue. can we go ahead and reboot his machine. So we'll wait for a quick confirmation from Bob to allow the or give me the permission. All right, so we successfully got the permission. I will say thanks, and I can go ahead and end the session. That's it. So we got the permission to reboot the machine. Now, for rebooting, we can either go with the traditional start menu and reboot, but that's not really required. Even that can be done from the quick shortcuts. We have a power options where you can remotely send a command for reboot or log off or shutdown. So I can just click on reboot, and this will automatically reconnect and join to the existing session. So if you still have a session running, it will reboot and reconnect the existing session. So these are the options available in there. So there are a lot of other options there, like under actions I can send Control-Alt-Delete command. I can again, you can revoke the blackout monitor. As you remember, we have blackout that. Then you can disable the keyboard and mouse. You can even take a screenshot. Suppose you're working on some important issue and you found some important log file, so you can very well take a screenshot of the end user machine. Then the other shortcuts which you can make use of, like quick launch, sending or accessing the command prompt, or opening the device manager, checking the event logs, firewall. There are a lot of shortcuts which you can invoke from here. You also have an admin level task which you can perform, like clean up disk, or task scheduler, updating the GPU. Those kind of activities you can perform. All right, so these are the shortcuts available. And apart from that, if you see on the right hand side, you also notice that it will show who is actually controlling or working on his machine. So it'll say the technician name. So you'll be having better assurance, like who is controlling his machine. So those are the options I can perform in a live real-time session. All right, so I've done with both of my tasks and I'm ready to go ahead and close out the session. So great. So I'll go back to my presentation. So just to quick recap, what I've shown here is how to make use of user permission prompt if required. How using HTML5 viewer you can leverage the different functionalities, shortcuts, multi-viewer support, how to black out the monitor and lock the keyboard and mouse in a live session if required, how to make or leverage the file transfer functionality, and how multi-technicians can work in a collaborative mode to help resolve any requirement or any ticket. So these are the functionalities, real-time functionalities you can perform while taking remote of the machine. So that brings to the end of the first topic. So any questions or doubts, you can feel free to put in the chat. So now we'll move on to the next topic. Where the requirement is, there's another ticket. Let's assume that same end user Bob has raised another ticket where he has reported system slowness issue. From last couple of weeks, he noticed that his machine is running very slow, and he has opened a ticket with the IT department to troubleshoot the system slowness issue. So now the same technician John got the ticket and he wants to look into it, what's going on. So to troubleshoot this issue, there are a lot of multiple tools offered by Desktop Central which you can leverage. So tasks like you can access the real-time task manager to see what are the process and services running. You can leverage the built-in chat tool, perform the hard drive performance tasks like check disk, disk cleanup, defrag. You can also have access to remote command prompt. At the same time, you can also go through the event log analysis file. So these are certain couple of tools which he's going to use to troubleshoot the system slowness issue. So let's go into the product and see how John, the technician, can leverage Desktop Central to troubleshoot the issue. So I'm going back to the tools, and here you can see there are multiple tools offered. So to start with, as this is a system slowness issue, right? So first and foremost thing comes in the mind is maybe there's a lot of unwanted process running. So they have a tool called System Manager, using which you can get real-time data of all the process and services running. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to search for the machine. I know that this is the machine that Bob has logged in, so I can click on Manage and I click on Processes. So what it does the real-time scan. It invokes the scanning right away, and will find out what are the services running, what are the process running right now on the target machine. So you can see now it has quickly loaded up number of process, name of the process. You can even sort it out based on the CPU uses. So that's very much makes sense of sorting out by the CPUs. You can check out whether you have any unwanted process running on the client machine. And if I think any unwanted process running, I can even kill the process right away on the fly. At the same time, I can also go to the services and I can find out what are the services running right now. If I want, I can even sort it out based on the status. So what are the status, or what are the services running, and if I want, I can even stop or restart any services right from this console. So this is very handy. I can even search for specific service if I'm looking for. Same goes for the process. I can even search for the specific process. I can even find out the process ID. So based on that, I can take the action. Next is the remote command prompt, which again can be very handy. So you can just connect, you have a control of the target machine, you can perform your commands, you can execute the commands remotely. You also have a registry access of the target machine. So you can very well see which specific hive which you want to drill down, and you can browse to the specific hive. You can see the value which has been configured. Now if you want, you can even add more columns. Then we have event log viewer, so which can be again very handy when it comes to the troubleshooting or analysis. So we have a complete logging information on the application level. Even for Kaspersky, if you're having antivirus Kaspersky running, system level even log files, and security level even log files. You can even filter out. So if you want like specific event source or even by error route, so if you just want to see what are the error events, so those will be sorted out. You can go through that one by one, and that's how you can go through the event files. It also shows up the shares, the local shares mapped to that machine, or the live sessions running, printers added to that machine, even the software information, what are the softwares installed on that machine, and local users account running. So all in all, you have a complete access of the target machine under one single pane of glass. So this can be very handy when it comes to any troubleshooting or analysis. All right, so I have spent enough time on going through the system manager. I went through the processes and services, but somehow I was not able to drill down any specific reason which might cause the system slowness issue. So I'm just gonna close the system manager tool. So next tool is what I can suspect is maybe the system slowness issue. So system slowness issue, again, which can be maybe on the hard drive, performance might be not up to the mark. So for that we have system tools, where you can remotely schedule a task and perform the job, like performing a disk cleanup or defragmentation. So I already have one task created. I'm just gonna modify and show you. So you can perform the task like check disk, disk cleanup, and defrag. And click on next. So you can decide which are the volumes which you want to perform the check disk. whether you want to fix the errors on disk or just want to perform a quick check. Then what are the files which you want to clean up? So there are a lot of files. You can decide you want just to clean up the temporary files or the crash files or browser cache files, Windows log files, system restore files. So based on the requirement, you can decide what are the files which you want to clean up. Then the defragmentation. So again, you can decide what are the drives you want to perform the disk defrag. And we have a couple of options here, like the operation type, what activity you want to perform. You just want to do a analyze the disk alone, or you want to perform the defrag too. So analyze and defrag. So the volume specifically will be defragmentation will be done, and you'll also present a complete analysis report once the defragmentation process is completed. Then you can also decide the priority. So whether it should be low priority or a normal priority. So that depends again at what time you're scheduling this task. Are you putting out during working hours or non-working hours or weekends? So if you set it to low priority, it's gonna consume very less system resources, right? Where this can be done, maybe you're pushing out during working hours, or it can set to normal priority if you're scheduling during non-working hours, where more system resources will be consumed, but it might impact the user activity if someone is working at that point of time. So you can decide the priority level which you want to configure, even the defragmentation mode, whether you want to have a verbose mode enabled for the statistics details for each volume, or you just want to run that parallel background. So you have options available based on your need. You can decide, and then comes the target. So which machines which you want to schedule this task. So it can be again specific to local office machines or remote office machines, or you can even do a sub filter, and you can specifically point to either a OU, or multiple set of OUs, or a custom groups, or IP range, or even OS type. So based on your need, you can go as granular as you need. So you set your specific set of computers which you want to perform this task on. And then the scheduler. So first and foremost thing, since this is the administrator level task, you need to provide the credential, the run as the administrator account. So it will use that credential to run that account. And you can also set the frequency. So how frequently you want to perform this task, on weekly basis or monthly basis, or just once, or even every system startup. So you have a provision to set your frequency and date and time. You can also have some conditions configured, to start this task if, let's say, the machine is idle for more than 2 hours. So as soon as it crosses 2 hours idle time, it will start performing this task. So those conditions can also be set. So you can decide the frequency, the conditions, and the credentials. So once you're done with that, just click on finish, and the task will be created. And next day you can come in and you can see the status, what exactly happened with the task, how many succeeded, how many failed, how many yet to apply. So that's how I can schedule the system performance task. So let's assume that I've done with the hard drive performance task. Now I want to notify notify the end user Bob that I have scheduled the system performance, or I have scheduled a check disk, a defrag for tonight, and next day morning when he comes back to office, he can update me whether he finds any kind of improvement on the performance. So for that, again, I can use the built-in chat. I can search for the Bob, and I can initiate the chat functionality. So I have a text just ready, for the quick information. So I've used the chat functionality, and I informed that in the message that I've scheduled a disk defragmentation task for tonight, and tomorrow, once he's back, he can revert and let us know whether he observes any kind of performance. So he can just update me on the ticket what he feels on the system performance. So that's how I can update him in the live. So let's assume that he has accepted the chat request. Right, so that's how I can update him in a live session. So I've shown you how to make use of system manager tool, then how to leverage the system tools to perform the or schedule the check disk defragmentation task, and how to update or notify end user in a live session using the chat functionality. So in the chat, we also have recently introduced the voice call and video call. So if you're interested in that, you can very well use those functionality too. It's also going to mention about the history. So every chat session you initiate is going to maintain the history of it. All right. So now let's go back to the topic number 2 about troubleshooting of system slowness. So these I've shown you, these are the tools or these are the options you can leverage. So that brings end of that particular topic. Now we'll move on to the topic number 3 or requirement number 3, where how the technicians or help desk can enforce the IT policies on the desktops and laptops managed within the organization. So to explain that in more detail, let's assume that my CIO or my IT manager has made an announcement or ordered us to go through and check out the power management policies which is followed across the network. Recently they observed that the energy bills are going very high, so he wants to ensure that we are shutting down the machines during non-working hours, that is at late night, and turning on them at early morning. So how we can leverage Desktop Central to schedule a remote shutdown at a specific time and again restart the machines every morning. So we have a tools remote shutdown or restart. I'll show you how to schedule the job, and as well as how to turn on the machines using Wake Online tool, which is again offered by Desktop Central, how you can schedule those deployment, and how you can point to specific groups of machines. So let's go live to the product once again. Go to the tools segment. So first and foremost, if you notice, there are two different tools, remote shutdown and Wake Online. So I'm going to go to remote shutdown first. So as the requirement is to schedule a shutdown of machines at specific time, let's say at 9 p.m. So you can also perform a live shutdown. So you can add the machines from the list, from the domain, and you can add the machine. You can perform an immediate shutdown or even immediate restart. So you can perform a live actions too. Now for my requirement right now is to perform a schedule shutdown. So I already have one task schedule. I'm just going to modify that. So I've created a task and named as schedule shutdown for Chicago site. And there are certain operations which I can perform, like scheduling a shutdown or restart or lock the machines. So now we'll go for the shutting down of the machines. There are certain options I can configure, like do not disturb if somebody is logged in during the schedule shutdown time, or allow the user to skip or postpone the operation if you wish, or just go for the force shutdown and just give some time, let's say 5 minutes. So if somebody is logged in at that point of time, he can save his data. And you can also very well customize the message which you want to convey. So those are the options available. I'm just going with the force shutdown. Then I can point to the specific custom group. So as you know, I have a certain department of machines which I want to schedule this job. So I can go to the custom group, I can select the group which I've created, and I can point to the specific group alone. And then I can schedule the job when I want to perform. So this has to be on daily basis, right? Every night. So I can set the date and time. Let's say for October, maybe at 11 p.m. every day, and schedule it and save the job. That's it. So next day I can come in and I can see the status, what exactly happened, how many machines successfully shut down, how many were failed. Same way, now I can go and use the wake on LAN tool to turn on the machines next day morning, right? So I can even do an immediate wake up if required. I can add the machines, I can do immediate wake on LAN, or I can schedule the wake up task. So I'm just going to edit the same task, give the task name, and by default we use UDP port 7 for wake on LAN tool activities. And then I can add the machines which I want. So I can just use the same custom group which I selected to perform the shutdown task, right? And if you want, you can also edit the broadcast address. So based on your local broadcast address, you can update that, and I can set the scheduler. So again, it has to be on daily basis, every morning 6 a.m. and save it. And then I can go back to the schedule wake up and I can see the status, what exactly happened. So how many successfully wake up, or how many failed. So there are certain prerequisites for wake on LAN to work. Like you have to ensure if you're deploying to different VLANs, different subnets, so you have to ensure the broadcast of IPs is allowed from one subnet to another subnet. And if you're deploying to different remote offices or different subnets, you have to ensure that at least one machine should be alive within that subnet, so that we can use that machine to locally broadcast to other set of machines. And of course, on the machine level, your wake on LAN should be turned on. The first boot should be set to the network boot. So those are some prerequisites which you have to take care on your end for the wake on LAN tool to work. So with the help of these two tools, remote shutdown and wake on LAN, I have scheduled the IT policies or power management policies to successfully shut down the machine every night and turn on every morning. So let's assume this has been done, but somehow I am not having better visibility, right? So the jobs has been scheduled, but how I can ensure that there is an improvement on the system downtime. So for that, we have a built-in power management reports. You can go to reports tab, power management reports, and we have a system uptime reports. So this report will have complete information. What is the total uptime? What is the total downtime of the machines which you are managing through Desktop Central? So I can get a quick summary view which provide all the information. If I want, I can also go into detailed view which will show more elaborate information like what is the startup time, shutdown time of that machine. If I want, I can even filter out based on different domains, or it can be very specific to specific custom group of machines which I want. I can sort it out based on different time range, and also decide whether to consider hibernate and standby as shutdown. So those will be calculated accordingly. So this report can be handy. You can also export into PDF or CSV or XLS format, and if required, I can even schedule this report. All right, so that's how I can leverage the power management system uptime report. So that brings to the end of the topic number 3. That's how you can leverage the tools to perform or enforcing the IT policies. Now we'll go to the topic number 4, which is more of an event or situations where you have a scenario where, let's assume, your Exchange server is down, which is actually a very critical level 5 issue, and you want to notify the users about it. So in this situation, you cannot even send an email about that, like your server is down, right? So what to do, how to notify the end users so that we can reduce the unwanted calls and emails and tickets to the Helpdesk tool. So for that, we have a built-in announcement tool. So you can go to the tools, we have an announcement, and I'm just gonna edit one of the existing announcements already made. You can set your announcement title, you can configure the message which you want to convey. Just a quick shot, like we are aware of the issue and we're working on it. And you can set the frequency, how many times you want to show the pop-up. You want to just show only once or multiple times. You can set your start time, you can set your end time, and which specific users you want to show, the entire domain or maybe a certain group of users alone. So as soon as you click on save, the end users will get a pop-up on the screen. Let me just show you how it looks like. So this is a quick snapshot of the announcement pop-up. So this is how you can make a quick announcement to the end users. So Exchange Server is just one of the example I've taken. There might be a lot of other situations, like let's say a scheduled fire drill is coming up in this weekend and you want to make an announcement to them. You can quickly use this announcement tool. Or let's say a printer is not working on a particular floor, so you can make an announcement to those floor machines alone, so they can get notified about it. Or let's say a Wi-Fi connection is down, or a business app server maintenance is coming up. So there are a lot of real-time scenarios where you can leverage the announcement tool. All right, that's a wrap of the questions, the requirements, the topics. Now we'll move into the scenarios and solutions. So we'll take scenario number 1. How do I measure the time spent by a technician who are handling tickets related to desktops? So this question is, I think, where let's assume that you're having our Service Desk Plus or Helpdesk ticketing tool along with the Desktop Central. So first and foremost thing, whenever you take a remote control or initiate a remote control functionality, if you notice this, let me just show you live. So I'm going to remote control. I'm searching for the end user Bob, and when you click on connect, there's something called SDP request ID. So let's assume the technician is already working on an existing ticket and he wants to take a remote of the machine. So first thing, he has to ensure that he is mentioning the exact ticket ID. So what happens, it will maintain the proper work log within the ticket. So this is something I'm assuming that you have already done the integration part, successfully configured. So first and foremost, you have to ensure that your Desktop Central and Service Desk is already integrated and they are talking with each other. And under features to integrate, you have enabled add work log and notes and resolution. This option should be checked. Okay, so let's assume this has been configured, this has already been enabled. And then when you're working on a particular ticket, you can go to the request and you can search for the ticket ID, whatever specific request you're working on. Let's assume that this is a ticket. And under task, you have an option to say work log details. So once you provide the particular ticket ID and when you initiate the remote control, under the task, under work log, you'll have a complete information. So how long the technician has spent the time on that particular ticket. You can also, get the reports out of it, like how long he spent on that particular technician has spent the time on overall on the ticket ID. So we have another session, or other webinar where we gonna talk in more detail what is the advantage of having integration between Desktop Central and Service Desk, where we're gonna cover this more in more detail. So this is just a quick overview. Next scenario is we like to monitor the activities of the students in our school without their knowledge. Is this possible? All right, so as this is a education department or schools and colleges, of course there might be some situations where the faculties want to monitor the students' activities. So yes, you can do that. So you can go to the remote control tools, go to the settings tab, and is something called view only mode. So if you enable this and save changes and then you take a remote, you're having or it will be running on a view only mode. In this case, the end user will not be known that someone is looking onto his machine, but it will only view only. You cannot perform any activity changes. Next scenario is we have a healthcare company that needs to be compliant with certain regulations such as HIPAA. Yes, so as you know, these are certain HIPAA compliance where user privacy is very important. So for that, if you notice that initially when I mentioned about taking remote control or remote access, there's option to prompt the user for confirmation. So this is one of the HIPAA compliant guidelines where user privacy is very important, where there's a mandatory step where in certain organizations who are actually following the HIPAA compliant rules, it is mandatory to take permission for every remote session initiated. So under user confirmation, there is option to always make a user confirmation as a permanent, and you can make it permanent overall. So every remote session initiated without the permission, you cannot take remote of the machine. So yes, we do have this provision enabled for HIPAA compliant. Just another point, if in case you have enabled user confirmation as permanent, you cannot revert on your own. You need to contact our support team to revert the changes. That's just to notify you. All right, let's go to the next scenario. Installing and configuring IIS on the remote machine is complex. I want to document the process and use it as a training material for our newcomers. Is this possible? Yes, it is very well possible. So we have a recording functionality in the product. So if you go to the screen recording tab under remote control, you can enable the screen recording so you can see what the technician has done, during every remote session. You can also decide which specific codec file you want to follow and what should be the frames per second. Even the color quality can be set. You want a high or low. And you can also enable the end user notification. So they will be notified that this session has been recorded. Yes, this is how we can enable the recording, and the recorded file can be accessed from the history tab. Next, I find my remote sessions are slow when I'm accessing a computer in a different country or roaming users. How do I fix it? Okay, so as you mentioned, the client machine is actually in different geographical location, or it's in roaming profile. So there might be some low bandwidth issues, but as far as the performance is concerned, we have a feature, or I would say a settings which you can configure. You go to the performance tab. Let's assume that you have a roaming user as a remote office. So you can move the compression to fast, and you can bring the color quality to maybe medium or low and save it. So after making these changes, you should be seeing at least few decent improvement in the performance. So there will be less lag during the remote access. Next scenario is one of the employees suspect an unauthorized remote access to his machine and has raised it to IT manager. Is there a way to audit the remote connections to his or her machine? All right, so this is very serious scenario where any unwanted or unauthorized access has been performed. An employee has raised this concern. So as an IT manager, definitely you want to know what is going on, whether it is true or not. So yes, every remote session initiated using Desktop Central remote control is been logged. So for the better accountability, better ownership, and better tracking or auditing, we have all these details been logged in here. So you can go to the history tab, and you can find out every remote session been initiated by the different technicians. So you can very well search by the user, or if the end user computer machine name, and you can find out every session been initiated. So what time it was started, what was the start time, end time, how long he was in session, what is the viewer IP. So from which particular viewer IP or which technician has initiated the remote session. So that's how you can audit out. And if you have enabled the recording functionality, you can very well download the recorded file from this view. All right, so that brings to the end of the scenarios and solutions. If you have any questions so far, feel free to put in the chat, and we'll quickly move into the questions round. So just give a few seconds for my team to update the questions, and we'll start shortly on that. All right, I guess it's updated. So let's take question number 1. Some of the users are denied permission to use phones in our business. Before I establish a remote connection, is there a way to interact with the end user other than the chat? All right, so that's a nice question. So as what he's reporting here, instead of using the chat functionality, is there any other way to connect to the end user? Yes, we can do that with using the feature called chat. Under the chat, we have something called voice call and video call. So this is the feature which we recently introduced. So you can very well initiate a voice call or a video call with the end user, and that's how you can connect with the end user machine. Question number 2, I'm running Desktop Central app on my mobile device. Can I initiate remote control via mobile app? Yes, you can very well do that. So if you're, let's say you're having a iPad, so I've just taken a quick screenshots so you can understand how it looks like. So we log into your iPad, you go to Desktop Central app. Under that, in the tools, you're going to find remote control, and you can search for the computer name which you want to connect to. Click on the computer icon, and that's how it's going to give a prompt why you want to take a remote access, give the reason, and that's it. In a matter of few seconds, you will be successfully connected. So this is how the screen looks like once you successfully establish the connection, and all those options in the left pane, you have all the shortcuts which you can leverage. All right, next question. Does the screen recording needs to be turned on before you establish the remote control session, or can it be turned on during the session? Okay, very good question. Unfortunately, it cannot be done during the session. It has to be prior, before you initiate. So before you go and click on connect, you have to go to the screen recording tab, and you have to see whether this box is checked or not. So if you want a screen recording, you have to enable this box, click on save changes, then you click on connect. Question number 4, to allow multiple techs to work on the same remote connection, does that require additional license from ManageEngine? Well, technically, no, you do not need an additional technician license. So if in the same admin account, multiple concurrent logins can be done, but as per the best practice or licensing policy, we always recommend, so if you have multi technicians in your organization, so for better accountability and ownership, and better tracking of every activities performed by different technician, we strongly recommend to have respective technician logins or technician license, so they can log in with their own ID, with their own account, so you can find out if any kind of unauthorized activities is performed. Next question, will the remote control automatically reconnect after a reboot during the remote session? The answer is yes, it will reconnect automatically. Question number 6, my remote control screen shows port 8443 conflict. How do I resolve? All right, so the default gateway port for remote control is 8443. So first of all, I will suggest to always ensure that 8443 is not being used by some other app on the actual Desktop Central server. But still, let's in scenario where it is used by some other app and which you cannot change. So you can come to the settings tab. I'm sorry, you have to go to the admin tab. and under tools you have port settings, and here you have an option to change. So default is 8443, but if you want you can move to some other port. Next question, is possible to take remote control of a roaming user if the user is at home without the VPN tunnel? Well, the answer is yes, you can very well take remote access of the roaming user, but for that there's certain prerequisites. So as I said, this is a home user, without the VPN tunnel. So for that you need to do a NATing on a firewall, and you have to create a remote office, and you have to install a WAN agent. So under scope of management, we have a remote office concept where you have to create remote office with a direct communication option, and you have to expose the server either via public IP or FQDN, and it should be reachable over the internet, and there are certain ports which you have to open so that the WAN agents can communicate to the server over the internet. So if you have configured this with the proper network requirements and the WAN agent, then you can very well take remote of the machine over the internet. Next question, if you have a keyboard and mouse disabled, does it automatically disable it for the new text sharing the session? If you leave the remote session and forget to re-enable the mouse and keyboard, will it automatically get enabled for the users? Okay, so I think the question is like, let's assume while working, you made some changes, and once you end the session, whether the changes will still be enabled or it will be reverted. So the answer is you don't need to do anything. Automatically, once you end the session, the changes will be reverted to the original. So the end user will be having his access of the keyboard and mouse back by default. Alright guys, so that brings to the end of the questions. So I trust we have taken most of the questions which are raised. There might be some few questions which we miss out. We'll be trying to answering that offline or via email. All right, so that brings to the end of the today's training session. So I request you to rate us on the scale of 1 to 5, where 5 is the best. So as soon as you click enter the session, you have a survey form. So please do share your feedbacks, your suggestions, anything you like to see, improvement, how you liked about the training session. And if you really loved our training sessions, free training programs, so you can also spread a word in our social media. You can tweet about us on the /ManageEngine, or talk about on Facebook or LinkedIn account. We'd love to hear from you on the social media. And don't miss out the next week, the new session on configurations, USB management, agent installation, server management. A lot of things, a lot of new things will be shared on upcoming week, next Wednesday on November 1st. So I do request you to please register for the next week's session. All right, guys, thanks for everyone. Thanks for joining a training session. I hope this was useful, informative, and please share your feedback. I'd love to hear on that. So this is Jay signing off for today. See you. Thanks.